Lattice Semiconductor, not a household name per se, but a darling of 2021, was one of those companies that I had on a short list of semiconductor stocks you probably should be paying attention to, but might not be. Came out and had what I would say a remarkably strong quarter itself. 30% year-on-year growth, a 92% increase year-on-year on a GAAP, 72% on income, Pat. So pushing margins up. The company delivered a beat and raise again on the quarter, basically indicating that once again, the overall perception that we're coming to an end of some sort of tech growth wave was really wrong. I mean, you're talking about 150 million quarter for the company, but you're also talking about a company that's made some really important moves. First of all, it's growing across end markets. It's in all the right secular markets, Pat. There are companies in communications. It's 5G. It's in compute, servers, data center, security. It's in industrial, IoT, Industry 4. It's in automotive, and they're basically, the way they define themselves is as the leader in low power FPGA. But they've really advanced from being kind of at the low end of this market to being in the low middle and kind of meeting Xilinx where it goes middle to top tier. Yeah. The company has been actively diversifying its portfolio with technologies, the AI space, their Certus Pro line. The company's got some new technology that it's rolled out with Lenovo that's being embedded into the new ThinkPad X1s. So it's got some new revenue streams that are picking up and that have been really strong, Pat. But you look across the board at how the company's been performing, and it's seeing 27% growth in its comms computing growth, 40% in its industrial and automotive, and then still seeing 20% this quarter on 19% in its consumer business. It's basically one of those technology that's coexisting in many product SKUs next to the Intels, AMDs, and other big name semiconductors, because FPGAs are becoming increasingly valid for very specific technologies that benefit from that flexibility, the ability to be quickly adaptable where an ASIC maybe doesn't make sense. So the company's in all the right areas. It's growing at the right pace. CEO Jim Anderson and his team are leading a very sound business. They've got the right partnerships with companies like Lenovo. They're in automotive. They're in data center. They're doing things like Sense AI, where they're doing things like ability to secure your device by being able to detect motion and vision. Just a lot of good areas, Pat, using the FPGA technology well, but also pushing margins, raising guidance. Company just seems to be in the right places, in the right field right now, and I think there's a lot to be encouraged by, despite the fact that they're not a household name. Lattice is looking very fit to have a good run, even in a more temperate market environment.
Yeah, I mean, listen, where do I start? I mean, right, they crushed it on the quarter, right? Not on EPS, but also on revenue. And while it's not as big as AMD, it doesn't matter. I mean, CEO Jim Anderson and his leadership team, I mean, how can you not give credit to them for what they did? They came in, restructured some things, got out of some bad businesses, figured out what their customers really wanted, and then they put the pedal to the metal and doubled, if not tripled, their product output. And this is really the growth mode for the company. And if you look at this chart right here, by the way, I'm really thankful that the company did an infographic. I think this is for the first time, but you peel back some of these numbers, right? On the comms and compute side, the big drivers to crank out that 27% increase were from servers, PC, and 5G infrastructure. And Jim and his team also are smart enough to know that coming in, people viewed FPGAs as difficult. But what Lattice does is they put a full stack solution against those FPGAs, so their end customers don't have to get too much into the weeds of doing a full up programming for the FPGAs. They can change parameters to do what they need to do. Industrial and automotive, right? That was up 40%, absolutely crushed it. And the big driver there was robotics and industrial automation, which ironically, you and I are going to be talking about in the next segment. But 40%, it's interesting. I asked the company, wait a second, how did you do so well in this area when others didn't? And they talked a lot about supply chain. People just couldn't get competitors' parts where you could get it from Lattice. Not a whole lot of details on consumer, which was up 19%, but quite frankly, I don't think the company wants to put a focus on that. Let me flash up this right here. You know, kind of funny, not as crazy and nutty as the AMD slide, but still, how often do you see slides like this where everything is up and to the right? And I know nobody brags about operating expenses, but quite frankly, if those weren't going up as the company was growing, I'd have to question the overall strategy. Final point here, Daniel. All of this performance is before what I'm most excited about, and that's Avant. Right, Avant right now, Lattice really hits the lowest power type of solutions. But there's an entire market, the mid-range FPGA, that is 2x doubles the TAM that the company has today, and really gets into the space of Xilinx and Altera. And Xilinx now, currently owned by AMD, and Altera owned by Intel. And both those companies have really put their biggest efforts into SoCs and higher performance FPGAs. So you have a new design with Avant coming in for the mid-range, sampling right now, going to hit in the second half. But keep your eyes on Avant, doubling the TAM of the company.